Yo-yo! 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 Allez, 2 secondes. Alors.
Oh dear, Toby. I wasn't aware that you were Watson's new literary... Can you tell me if you saw Mr. Montague Dunn on the day of his death?
Yes, of course. I met him, and we went to see Albert, his son, at around 9:30. He appeared quite calm.
What were you doing on the morning of the accident?
After paying multiple visits to Albert, I had a little talk with Miss White. Then I returned to my desk to complete some paperwork. Suddenly, I observed that Mr. Dunn was not feeling well, so I ran immediately to fetch Albert. I clearly remember that it was around 10:30, for I was late that morning.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
Alors, que je dois faire, moi, déjà, on l'a évoqué.
Your father's death does seem highly suspicious. What were your movements here on that day?
Suspicious? Well, I was working in the seed house, taking care of Lysa, something, or Lear Pontus, or... No, wait. Ah, these Latin names. I spent so many hours trying to memorize them.
Did you see your father that day?
Yes. He came here with Mr. Hamish for his weekly visit. There was nothing unusual about that.
And then?
Nothing. They stepped out to the backyard. It was perhaps 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. And about 10 minutes later, I saw my father heading for the dry tropics room while Mr. Hamish returned here.
And Mr. Hamish and Miss White, what were they both doing that morning?
Mr. Hamish visited me a couple of times. I also saw him returning from talking with Miss White, and that was at 10 minutes past 10. But then he ran back here to me to tell me that my father was feeling unwell. We hurried across to the water lily room, and I found my father lying dead on the floor. Oh my God.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon. Can you tell me what Mr. Dunn was doing upon the day of his death?
I can, but there is nothing very special to say. I was in the laboratory when I saw Mr. Dunn heading towards me. Tuesday is the day of his weekly visit. It was supposed to be at 9, but he was 10 minutes late, as usual.
And then?
Well, he came in to say good morning. Then I saw him spend 2 or 3
Alors
minutes by the plants outside the laboratory.
Moi je sais qui
After
c'est qui
that,
l'a
he
tué,
ran
je
out in
crois.
the direction of the nursery, where Mr. Hamish was working. He was always in a rush during the inspection, you see. I would pity anyone who stood in his way.
And that was the last time you saw him?
Yes. I stayed in the laboratory until 20 minutes to 11, when I heard the cries of Albert and Mr. Hamish from the large glass house. I joined them as soon as I could, for I knew that something must be very wrong.
What exactly were you doing in the laboratory?
I was recording an experiment for my thesis. I only stopped my work once when Mr. Hamish visited me briefly around 10 o'clock.
You say you were recording an experiment when the tragedy occurred. Might I listen to the roll?
Certainly. Please do. You will find it in the laboratory. It is number 320.
Thank you, miss.
Everyone has gone, Holmes. The way is clear.
When Montague Dunn was standing close by the plants, the caterpillars were released and caused the deadly spores to activate. Panicking, and likely already half asphyxiated, Montague Dunn started back and knocked over the bust. He rushed to the door, but it was locked. He had to force it open with his shoulder. We already know the outcome. Montague Dunn collapsed and died not far from the pool. Well, it is time to perform our experiment on the ventilation system.
qu'il y a d'autres indices? Ah mais il manque des indices là.
The caterpillars could only fall from the ventilation duct. Our caterpillars are in place. I'll activate the ventilation system so that they fall down. Watson, stay here and observe.
All right, Holmes.
The smell is strong. It is a detergent.
La ventilation.
The power is off. The engine cannot be The engine has stopped. The ventilation system is working. Before I activate the fan, I need to check if the interior of the Colonial Collection Room can be seen from here. From here, we are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room. We can see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room from this window. Excellent. This ventilation fan is working. Let us see if I can activate the other one.
Alors,
I just need to find Watson to check the result.
It works perfectly, Holmes. Bravo. Now, if you could just help me to get rid of these caterpillars.
Perfect. Now we know how the murder of Montague Dunn was carried out, by activating both Albert's and Mr. Hamish's fans.
But only from Mr. Hamish's workplace would it be possible to see when Montague Dunn entered the Colonial Collection Room.
Ah mais il manque des indices alors. Hein. Ouais, je vais pas.
Dry tropics.
Faut essayer de refaire cette enquête quoi. Putain mais c'est pas là que je veux.
Here it is. Cylinder Records.
Ah mais y a plus rien là.
This is a table for experiments. It resembles my own.
Only this one is kept in good order, Holmes.
On poursuit l'enquête alors. Je sais pas où il est le. Je sais plus où il est le sonographe.
We can see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room from this window. This is one of the outlets of the ventilation system. From here, we are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room.
Où il est le sonographe? Chier. De toute façon, il ne doit pas rester 15 indices, hein, de toute façon.
These plants come from all the territories of the British Empire.
Je sais pas du tout où est le sonographe, ça me fait chier ça d'ailleurs. Putain, t'es Watson, c'est vraiment, putain, le PNJ dans le jeu, il est vraiment teubé, hein. Regarde-moi ça, il me gêne.
What should we-
Il est là en plus, je suis con. Moi.
These plants, classified as shrubs or grasses, have adapted to their arid environment due to a system of underground roots.
This recording seems very long. It is unnecessary to listen to all of it. Miss White was in the laboratory, as she told us.
Putain, qu'est-ce qui manque comme indice là? Les casiers, je les ai tous faits. Je veux bien, mais... Toi, il est marqué opportunité, bah ouais, mais bon, il doit me manquer un indice, hein.
Let's go to Scotland Yard.
Eh ouais, mais non. Non, il manque des indices, ça fait chier, je veux pas... Putain! Ah, ça me gonfle, putain!
Follow my path, and better you will fear.
Ah, il manque des indices, ça me fait chier, hein.
That should be the raw sap that the Green Grand Mystic spoke of. This is rather delicious, and of an excellent quality.
My word, Holmes. Their sap is like a form of cocaine.
manque des indices, mais lesquels?
This must be Trewan, the divine.
Ah, ça fait chier de pas faire un
Praise
sans
the
faute.
grand tree. Praise it.
The list of plant friends and benefactors, lawyers, well-known manufacturers, political leaders.
Follow my path, and better you will feel.
Fait chier. J'ai pas dû oublier beaucoup d'indices importants.
Oh dear, Toby. I wasn't aware that... My archive.
À mon avis, c'est trop tard.
Let's go to Scotland Yard.
Nursery. We can see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room from this window. An award presented to Martin Hamish for Best Grower of the Year. A master's degree diploma. It belongs to Martin Hamish. Seed House. These leather gloves are new and of good quality. They do not appear to have been used. A book about ships. Nothing at all to do with plants. Materials for college study. They belong to Albert. This place serves as Albert's office. We are unable to see the interior of the Colonial Collection Room. A water tank.
Ouais, ouais, bon, bah, je la referai du coup, c'est pas grave, hein. Fait chier, hein. Putain. À moins que je peux y déduire après, peut-être, alors. Ouais, maintenant je peux plus rien faire.
Locked. Inspector, I believe that Martin Hamish is guilty of the murder of Montague Dunn.
Aha! I knew it. I'll send a letter round to arrest him.
Very good. I shall wait to hear from you.
Ah, j'ai tout loupé. Ah ouais, j'ai tout loupé. Bon, bah, je referai l'enquête.
Inspector, I came here as quickly as I could.
Martin Hamish is in the large glass house. There's no need to hurry.
Ah, mais j'aurais même pas la bonne réponse non plus, j'aurais même pas la bonne conclusion. Ah, ça me fait chier, tiens, putain. Ah, ça me casse les couilles.
Holmes, my God!
Yes, we found him like that.
Our messing around with the ventilation system didn't go unnoticed. Mr. Hamish realized that we knew.
Inspector, could you arrange the body, please? I should like to examine it.
Ah, à moins que c'est maintenant. La vie de n'est pas d'avoir fait d'une mérité certes sa mort, mais je ne peux me pardonner d'avoir son sang sur les mains. Les Amish ont toujours été victimes de circonstances et adieu.
The mark around the neck is very visible. He died instantly. A club foot. Bravo, Watson. That is the key element of this case.
Ah, il y a un complice.
Something about this rings very oddly.
Why do you say that, Mr. Holmes?
Why? Because of Mr. Hamish's club foot. Oh, I deserve to be kicked from here to Charing Cross. I should have noticed it.
But, Mr. Holmes, I can't see why.
No, I don't suppose you do. You must recall that Mr. Dunn was locked inside the Colonial Collection Room by the murderer. If it was Mr. Hamish, he would have had to run up to his workplace to trigger the fan situated above it, taking into consideration the condition of his foot.
Well, it is still possible.
Perhaps, but it is rather strange that such a person as Mr. Hamish decided to base his plan on the speed of his gait.
You mean to say that somebody helped him?
So the suicide is questionable?
Correct. Mr. Hamish accuses only himself in his letter, and so the investigation stops.
Possibly an accomplice, then? That idea had not occurred to me, Mr. Holmes.
I have another idea, Inspector. Thanks to the testimony that we have collected, we are able to rebuild the events as they took place that day.
With a timeline, such as we did in the Jack the Ripper case.
Precisely.
The map at the entrance of Kew Gardens should help us with our timeline.
Let us analyze the facts and statements so that we may recreate the events of that morning.
Amish et Montagne Duke sont sortis dans l'arrière-cour. Puis plus tard, Dune a repris son inspection. Amish s'est entretenu avec Miss White à 10h. Ok. Jusqu'à 11h. Jusqu'à 11h moins 20. Elle a vu Amish et Albert dans la salle des nénuphars et a rejoint. Non. Amish a couru prévenir Albert en s'apercevant que Montagnier était souffrance aux alentours de 10h30. Albert a passé toute la matinée à la grainerie d'aperçu Amish qui rentra à point. Albert a passé toute la matinée vers 10h10. Grave. Cette matinée à la grainerie. Martin rentre après son revenu avec Miss. Ouais, j'en sais rien. Putain, fait chier ces mini-jeux à la con. Oh, Tachibana, comment vas-tu? Oh, ça va te jouer encore un petit moment, après je pars. Je discute avec Martin Amish au laboratoire. À 10h, c'est bon. Missois était rentré au laboratoire. Bon, 11h moins 20, pour moi, ça fait 10h40. Hein. Albert, voir Amish. Alors. Martin Amish s'est entretenu avec Miss White à 10h. Non, ok, discute au laboratoire, c'est ça. Alors à laquelle elle a vu Amish et Albert dans la serre nénuphar et les a rejoints. C'est autour de 10h30. Merci Tachibana, merci pour le raid encore. Bisous bisous. Oh, ça me fait chier. Mais encore lui à mettre dessus s'il rentre. Après ça rentre. Ouais, mais c'est là que c'est pas bon alors. Putain, ça me gonfle ça aussi. Martin Mich, c'est entretien avec Miss White à 10h. Ok, à 10h10, il y a quoi? Laquelle dans l'univers Amish à quoi poignard à verre, c'est pas augmenté des souffrances aux alentours de 10h30.
Let us summarize. Montague Dunn was poisoned inside the Colonial Collection Room. He forced open the door, which means that someone locked him inside there at 10:20. Martin Hamish was last seen at 10:10. This means that he has approximately 10 minutes to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room. Given that he was club-footed, it is doubtful. Albert also has 10 minutes to lock the door of the Colonial Collection Room, which is quite enough time. Miss White was last seen at 10 o'clock, which means that she had approximately 20 minutes to lock the door. More than enough time.
GG level up, Tashi.
Perfect, Watson. Now, let us ascertain who assisted Martin Hamish in killing Montague Dunn.
Ça fait qu'Albert est complice. Mais si mes souvenirs sont bons, je crois que c'est... Heureusement que j'ai sélectionné la boule du dessous là. Il me semble que c'est White. On a le syndicat qui l'a tué, on a White coupable, on a Albert Dune coupable. coupable. Amish, il a agi seul. Bon, il est coupable. Ça, de toute façon, voilà. Albert complice. Et White complice. De toute façon, je peux pas toutes les jouer, donc on va faire... Normalement, la bonne fin, c'est celle-là. Si mes souvenirs sont bons.
But Holmes, how can you be certain that we'll find Miss White here?
It is obvious, Watson. Just use your brain.
I am using it. I do use it.
Now that the rope has tightened around Martin Hamish, Miss White must act to erase all traces of her implication. After the suicide of her accomplice, there is one final trace remaining: the deadly plants of the Divine Syndicate. She will be there.
Very good. Shall we go?
Just one moment. Now listen to me, Watson. I shall see her alone. You will conceal yourself behind her, quietly.
Whatever are you planning?
Nothing spectacular. The impulses of women have always been a mystery to me, but she is a bold one, and so we must be cautious.
All right. You can count on me, Holmes.
Mr. Holmes, good day to you.
You do not seem surprised, Miss White.
Well, I was expecting you.
Not for too long, I believe. So please tell me, as it is still unclear, who planned the murder? Was it you?
You were wrong, Mr. Holmes.
It was Martin Hamish, then. You managed to convince him to take on a more prominent role.
You could not be further from the truth.
You think that you can fool me?
You don't care what I think.
It is difficult to care about someone who is capable of pushing a man to his suicide. It is over, Miss White. The police will be here any minute.
Over, perhaps. One moment you were here, and the next, you were on the other side.
The other side? No! Stop! I beg you not to do this, Miss White.
Don't come any closer.
Please remain calm. We can help you.
Not one step further. Don't try to stop me.
Stop this foolishness. You cannot truly want to die.
No, it's too late.
Well done, Watson. She was not faking.
Miss White, you have no right to take your own life.
Dr. Watson? Did you just save me? Or worse?
Where are you going, Holmes? Have you been invited somewhere?
We have been invited, Watson,
We have. Where to?
to the Baker Street Irregulars' annual dinner. They sent us an invitation. It is on the table.
A dinner? How could those street urchins afford anything like that? I can't understand your interest in them, Holmes. They're dirty. They wouldn't hesitate to steal your wallet. They...
Watson, you should be excited. It is a secret dinner. Its location changes every year. Read the menu. Sounds mouth-watering.
All right. We, the secret police of Baker Street, invite you, Sherlock Holmes, and Dr. Watson to our annual dinner. Menu, entree, frozen rat head salad. Is this a joke?
Not at all. Pray continue.
Main course, sow's udder in Danny Nutcracker's way. Ah, sounds disgusting, Holmes. Hedgehog goulash. Street turnips in homemade juice. And it goes on.
Ah, I can hear them on the stairs now.
Oh, we can't go there. We can't eat that.
Watson, you'll hurt the feelings of those poor children. We have to go.
Oh, Mr. Holmes.
It is fine, Mrs. Hudson.
Mr. Holmes!
Wiggins, Dr. Watson is getting ready. He will be delighted to join us. You don't look well, my young man. Is there something wrong? Don't tell me the dinner is cancelled.
Mr. Holmes, it's my brother Leighton. He's in a prison cell. They say he's killed 2 men. You have to help us, Mr. Holmes, 'cause I know he didn't do it.
Where is he now?
From what I've heard, they took him to the yard, and they gave him a good beating already. You know what they're like. They'll hang him. They won't look any further.
Holmes, we have to help him.
Well, and forget about the dinner. Wiggins, I'll take the case.
You're fantastic, Mr. Holmes. I'll be waiting for you at the crime scene. You'll be there, right? It's on Half Moon Street in Whitechapel.
Very well. Hello, Toby. All you need now is a shawl and a mock
voilà.
cap, and you could be Mrs.
à chaque
Hudson's
enquête.
younger sister.
Condamné, condamné, arrêté, condamné. Alors, pardon.
Mr. Holmes, whatever brings you here so late at night?
I'm interested in the case of young Leighton Chapman. He was arrested earlier this evening and accused of a double murder.
I beg your pardon? That case is quite clear to the police. Or are there any new facts that we don't know about?
Who knows, Inspector?
Look, you are free to investigate, of course, Mr. Holmes. Chapman was arrested with a revolver in his possession, which you can find in the evidence room. The suspect himself is in custody.
Did you find anything else on his person?
A few personal belongings. Nothing particular, Mr. Holmes.
Thank you, Lestrade.
Allez, c'est parti.
So this is the gun that Leighton was holding when... It seems as though the shells were not removed from the cylinder. Two out of the 6 shells have been fired. There were 2 shots. Two.
Ah, il y a la
A cheap
montre.
watch bought with... These cigarettes...
Ouais. Pas grand chose. On va examiner le corps. Il n'y a pas de corps. Ah pardon, je crois qu'il y avait un corps. 2 même, non.
Please escort this suspect for interrogation. Good evening, Mr. Chapman.
Who are you? I've got nothing to say. It's all a mistake.
Calm down, Leighton. I have come here to help you. To find out if you truly are innocent, as your younger brother Wiggins has told me.
My brother? You know him? Then that means you're...
Sherlock Holmes.
Oh, blimey. All right, Mr. Holmes. I'll tell you everything.
Lui, c'est
Good.
fait. Il manque 2
Tell me your
personnages
account of
normalement.
what happened.
I left my work and I hurried up to see the fireworks in Whitechapel. I was late, so I decided to cut through Half Moon Street. I saw the first fireworks light up in the sky. I bumped into a constable on a corner before entering Half Moon. Then suddenly, what with all the firework flare, I saw 2 men. They were both lying flat in the middle of the street. I stopped where I was. I thought about turning back to the police, but as I was thinking of that, I saw a third person. He was leaning over the body that was furthest from me. The second I saw him, he raised his head and he stared at me. In a flash, I saw his gun, but he made a dash for it instead and he escaped through Whitechapel Street.
So you might still have had time to return to the constable.
I panicked. I didn't know what to do. Anyway, I approached the bodies just to see if they were still alive. I saw that one had blood pumping out of his stomach. He was dying. It was horrible. The second one was already dead. He had a hole in his head. He was holding a gun in his hand, though. I took it, and then I followed the third man.
Interesting. Pray, continue.
I turned a corner, and I saw the man standing in the middle of the street. He seemed to be in some sort of panic. And then, Mr. Holmes, something strange happened. I told the police and they laughed at what I said, but I swear to you, my words are true. I started running towards him, But then I was blinded by a flash. It was so bright that I hardly saw anything for a good dozen seconds. But I kept running forward. As I arrived in Whitechapel, I heard a woman screaming. And then I was caught by the police. But there wasn't a trace of that man. Of course, then they found a gun and all that blood. I couldn't see the murderer escaping and all that mess. Perhaps I was still half-blinded at that moment.
A thrilling account, my young man. Leighton, are you able to describe the person whom you saw standing in Half Moon Street?
Well, I wasn't able to see his face at all. It was too dark, and he was too far away. I could see his silhouette.
And what about that?
Nothing so special. He was wearing a jacket. He was quite average in size and his weight.
I see. Was there anything else that struck you at the time?
No. But perhaps it's strange, but I can't remember the sound of his footsteps as he was running away. Perhaps it was because of the fireworks or the surprise of me seeing him.
We shall see you soon, young man.
T'es dans le camp en cours. Dans le camp en cours. Ok, bon. C'est là alors.
Please, gentlemen, leave the scene now. Oh, Mr. Holmes, is that you?
Good evening, Constable...
Constable Marrow. I was here with Inspector Aberline during the Ripper case, Mr. Holmes, back in '88. But then this is nothing like that case. With this one, we've got the murderer, the weapon, and the statements, which speak for themselves.
Of course, Marrow. But you know that appearances can sometimes be deceiving. Who were the victims?
The two men here, both shot. The stab fellow was Brian Vercotti, a well-known ruffian. The other, Kenneth Butler, a jeweller by trade.
You spoke of statements. You have witnesses?
Well, I was there, so I gave my own statement. And then there were two other witnesses who said they saw the killer Chapman. Mr. Turner, a gentleman who lives in that flat over there. And Polly Powell, a flower seller, who was over at the far side of the street.
So, Constable Marrow, I should be delighted to hear your testimony.
I was standing at the north side of Half Moon Street. That was the side that you came from.
But you would have been unable to observe this part of the street, where we are standing now.
That is correct. But I saw the two victims slowly enter Half Moon Street, and then shortly after, the fireworks started. A few minutes after that, the fellow Chapman rushed towards me and ran into Half Moon Street.
Please continue.
I didn't pay attention, but suddenly I heard a woman's cries and police whistles on the other side of Half Moon Street. I rushed over there and I saw the two dead bodies on the ground. When I reached Whitechapel Street, I saw Leighton Chapman. He'd been caught by two police constables.
Did you hear the shots?
I didn't hear any shots. The fireworks were all over the sky. They were so loud I couldn't hear anything else.
What were the fireworks in honor of, Constable?
Well,
Today's Queen Victoria's birthday, Mr. Holmes.
Ah, yes, I appear to have lost track of the days. It is May now, of course. Constable Marrow, what else caught your attention while you were running through Half Moon Street?
I saw nothing but rats, and I took the time to light every corner with my lamp.
Did you happen to look up at Mr. Turner's window when you were on Half Moon Street at that time?
Yes, I saw that the window was open, but no one was there. It was dark in the room.
Constable, your statements have been of great value to me.
Alors.
Good evening, Mr. Turner.
I heard Constable Marrow reply to you as Mr. Holmes. Are you that detective, gentleman? I've heard of you. And, well, I know things about this evening.
Excellent. Might we hear your story?
Alors.
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
I was already in bed when the fireworks started. A few moments after, I clearly heard 2 gunshots from outside.
Please continue.
I quickly got up and I grabbed the lamp from my nightstand and I rushed towards the window. I looked down and I saw 2 bodies. And there was a man with a gun who was standing nearby.
Where exactly?
Well, near this body.
Did he notice you?
I don't think so. He rushed towards Whitechapel Street without looking around.
Mr. Turner, did you see anyone else in the street?
No, I saw no one but that man, the murderer, the fellow they caught.
Were the 2 shots you heard consecutive?
Yes, there was a very short pause between them, and they sounded different somehow. It seemed to me that the second shot was louder than the first.
That is an interesting comment. Mr. Turner, what were your actions after you stepped up to the window?
I was afraid that the man with a gun might return, so I stayed close to the window till I saw the policeman coming in the Half Moon from Whitechapel. Then I walked out to tell them everything I saw.
You have helped us a great deal, Mr. Turner.
Désolé.
Mr. Holmes, did you see my brother at Scotland Yard?
Mrs. Powell?
What do you want?
My name is Sherlock Holmes. I'm assisting the police with their investigation of the crime that took place this evening.
Well, I've already gave my testimony, but very well.
Could you tell us everything that you may have seen or heard?
Yes. I was selling my flowers as usual, and then the fireworks began, in honour of Queen Victoria. I enjoyed those. But then, all of a sudden, a young lad ran out of Half Moon Street and stopped just by me. He had a gun in his hand. He was like a ghost, and all covered in blood. It was dark, but I could see him, because of the flashes from the fireworks.
And then?
I screamed as loud as I could. I knew that a policeman should be on duty in the vicinity. He had no time to escape. 2 constables got him. Then another constable came out from the very same street, and I heard him talking of a horrible murder.
Mrs. Powell, did you hear the gunshots?
I'm not sure. You know, what with the fireworks?
Did you see anyone else leaving Half Moon Street prior to or at the time of the crime?
No, sir, I did not. Even with all the fireworks, I was very attentive, as I'm always on the lookout for customers.
My thanks to you, Mrs. Powell. A piece of wood that has stuck between the cobblestones. Let us take a closer look. This shard of wood is quite new. The bullet struck his head. This man didn't stand a chance. This is an ordinary key. I wonder what kind of door it opens. He tried to stop the bleeding with his hand. Death was not instant. The bullet penetrated his stomach, a dreadful wound. A tattoo from Westgate Prison. Vicotti must have done some time there. Brian Vercotti and Leighton Chapman both have identical Westgate prison tattoos. They were most likely acquainted. Brian Vercotti suffered greatly. What a terrible way to die. I am unable to see any higher. I need to find something to lift my lamp. I am unable to see any higher. I need to find something to lift my lamp. Mr. Turner, you have stated that you remained close by your window after the crime. Is that correct?
Oh, yes, Mr. Holmes. I stayed at my window until the policeman arrived to examine the dead bodies.
That is very interesting, Mr. Turner. Constable Marrow stated that he did not see anyone at the window when he was running through Half Moon Street.
Well, I think Constable Marrow and me, we might have been distracted by the whistles and shouts coming from Whitechapel. We could have missed each other somehow. You understand what I mean? It was a bit of a stressful moment, to tell you the truth, sir.
Allow me to form my own theories, Mr. Turner. Would you mind showing me the view that you had from your window?
Not at all, Mr. Holmes. Please, follow me.
Mr. Turner appears to live very modestly. So, that's the view Mr. Turner had when he opened the window. The dead body of Kenneth Butler. Brian Vercotti's contorted corpse. Mr. Turner had a perfect view of the crime scene. He saw the bodies clearly, and Leighton Chapman standing over them.
Anything else you would like to know, Mr. Holmes?
This kitchen knife is quite sharp. There are pieces of shredded paper scattered over the table. This kitchen knife was used to cut the paper. This fire is dying out. It was last tended to over an hour ago. The papers are almost entirely burned. I am unable to see what's written here. These words are illegible. The papers were thrown into the fire just a short while ago. Mr. Turner was roused from his bed by the sound of gunshots.
Anything else you would like to know, Mr. Holmes?
Mr. Holmes, did you see my brother at Scotland Yard?
I'm always wondering what's on your mind, Holmes.
please escort this suspect for interrogation. Leighton, I confess I am puzzled. Why should a young lad like you take a gun from the hands of a dead man and set off in pursuit of a probable killer?
I know. I keep wondering that, but at the time it was like a reflex. A criminal ought to be arrested, and he was armed.
You were willing to risk your life. That was a little foolish, unless you wanted revenge.
No, Mr. Holmes. I was just being brave and stupid.
I'm sure that you were, but I believe that you may have recognized one of the victims, Brian Vercotti. You knew that gentleman well, did you not?
However could you know that?
You have a typical tattoo of the Westgate Brotherhood upon your hand. I observed exactly the same mark upon Mr. Vercotti. You came to know him from your sharing a past prison sentence. Am I correct, Mr. Chapman?
God. You're right, Mr. Holmes.
Would you tell me a little about Brian Vercotti?
We were convicted for a robbery. Once in prison, both of us joined one of these fraternities. During that year, we tried to help each other out, you know?
You were quite young then, I believe.
Yes, Mr. Holmes, we were. We'd only stolen a pound of meat. After we were released, and when I saw what my little brother had become, I decided to work towards living an honest life.
And Vercotti?
He had a hard time. His sister had died in a Whitechapel dispensary while he was in prison. He had no family anymore. Our paths split. He fell back into crime.
So you lost him?
Yes. And for around 2 years, I heard no news of him at all.
We shall see you soon, young man.
Bon allez, du coup je vous laisse. Je vous remercie à ceux qui sont passés. On
I'm always wondering what's on your mind, Holmes.
va s'arrêter là.
What's up with you, lad? What are you waiting for?
I'm waiting for my brother to be released.
Your brother?
The one that you caught, beat up and imprisoned.
Ah, the murderer.
He ain't killed no one, copper.
Watch your mouth, lad, else you'll be joining that worthless brother of yours.
Such a young man, and already a murderer.
I am unable to see any higher. I need to find something to lift my lamp.
It would be my pleasure to assist you with your investigation, Mr. Holmes. It would be my pleasure to assist you with your investigation, Mr. Holmes.
I am unable to see any higher. I need to find something to lift my lamp.
I'm always wondering what's on your mind, Holmes.
This should be useful.
Bon allez, du coup je vous laisse. Moi je reviens tout à l'heure. Pour la suite. Ouais, je vous fais de grosses bises et puis je vous dis à tout à l'heure. Bisous bisous.